Hello, welcome to this tutorial of how to do a Pincha Mayurasana. Now, full disclosure, this is a pose that I am currently still exploring in my practice and one that I definitely haven't mastered. But as you might know, I don't fully believe in the idea of mastering a pose and more about the intention behind the way that we're practicing and what it is that we're exploring and how we go about it. And what I have found really interesting in my own journey with this pose is that there have been times where I have been more governed by fear and less able to explore this in a way that feels spacious and free. And there have been other times where I felt more fearless and I have been able to really dive into this. But just with so many different things that we do in our lives, there is no reason that we need to be able to do this, but it's a tutorial that I've been asked a lot about. And to be honest, I've been reluctant to share because it isn't something that I'm able to demonstrate the full thing on my own, but I am going to be using the wall. Now, a little bit about that. I have a very low range of motion in my hips. I hit compression here, and I won't bore you with the details. But the reason that that's an important thing to share is actually to do with the way in which we access the pose. And I'm going to try and share as many tips as possible, but I want to highlight this to begin with because it's actually something that I find very helpful in terms of preparing the body for this pose. So, for those of you that are unfamiliar with Pincha, it's a forearm stand. There are lots of different ways that we can come into this, but it relies on various different elements. And essentially, traditionally, the arms would be parallel. Now, depending on the structure of your shoulders, for some of us, it may be more accessible to bring the hands together. When I practice, I interlace the hands, but it's something that I really want to say or mention that you want to be a little bit careful. And I definitely think that the best way to start exploring this pose is with the hands parallel. And a way that you can do that is by using the blocks. Now, the reason I say that that's the best way is it's a really good way of working out where there are weaknesses in the shoulders. But there's more to it than just strength, and the structure of our bodies makes such a difference to this. So give yourself the space to explore. And you can do that without coming into an inversion or into a full pincher by coming into down dog and then lowering the forearms to the floor. So then we have dolphin pose. So we can be in down dog. If you're from here and you lower the forearms down, for me, automatically my hands want to turn in. What about you? Have a little try. Okay, and see what feels good for you here. You're really pushing the ground away with the forearms. Now, the next step, and this is why I mentioned my hips, what we want to do is walk the feet in as much as we can to shift the hips above our shoulders. Now, because I can't flex too far at the hips, I reach a point quite early on where I can't get my hips any further over my shoulders. And ultimately, what that's going to mean is when I go up, I'm going to have to jump, which isn't an ideal situation. In an ideal situation, we'd be able to walk the feet in, shift the hips over our shoulders, float one leg up, and then use the core strength to bring the other leg up as well. But this is an opportunity to play and explore, and we don't have to look for the textbook pose to be in this exploration and to be in this practice. So, what we're going to do is come over to the wall. Bringing your mat over to the wall, and you can have it, depending on what you're working with, what's around you, the best thing to do is actually turn it so that it's lengthways to the wall. Now, the first thing we're going to do here is come back into that dolphin pose and really In order to make this more accessible, we need to keep practicing. We need to build the strength in the upper body. We need to build the space in the shoulders, the strength of the core, the space in the hamstrings, the ability to lift everything up and get into the pose. So there's a lot going on here. But the forearms are going to come to the floor and you find your way into dolphin pose. And then walk your feet in as much as you can to try and shift the hips over your shoulders. So for you, it might be significantly more than me. It might be the same, it might be less, it doesn't matter. Just get to a place where it feels like that is your edge. And you can come up onto the tiptoes and lower and see if you have a little bit more space. And then you kind of start to work out what is going on for you, whether it's actually the hips that are stopping you, the shoulders that are stopping you, and you just have that little play and just notice what's going on in your body. And if anything feels injurious, we back out. So dolphin's a really good foundation. We can start there. Now, there's lots of different ways that we can move from there, but what I want to show you today is a way using the wall, in two ways using the wall. So the first thing I'm going to do is bring myself so that I could sit on my heels next to the wall, and then place my hands down from here, and then find whatever hand variation you've chosen. Now, to measure how far you are away from the wall, it can be useful to sit and just measure the length of your legs, and then that's where your hands are going to go. And then lifting up, you're actually going to take your feet onto the wall. And you can walk your feet down the wall so that you start to send your hips over your heels. And straight away, if it starts to feel really scary, that's that fear factor that is going to potentially intercept your experience. And that's the lifting of the hips over the shoulders that can be quite preventative for a lot of us, partly because of our bodies and partly because of fear. So we're here, we're practicing shifting the weight of the hips over the shoulders. Now the feet on the wall with your legs extended isn't going to do that. You start to walk the feet down the wall until you start to shift your hips over your shoulders. So that's one way to start exploring that position. Now I know you're probably very excited to get upside down, and you can do it from that way, but if, like me, fear is a big element of this, then I like to turn around the other way. And what we're going to do is exactly what we did in dolphin pose. You don't want to get too close to the wall, but you're going to place your hands down, find that positioning with the lower body, and then take dolphin pose. It's a good one to do reversing up to the camera. Then you're going to walk your feet in, and then lift one leg. And you can just take a little hop with that leg. And maybe you get a bit of air time. Maybe you find the wall. Maybe you just take an inch or so away from the floor and then fall down. And you try to land lightly by using the core. Not always in our control, but we try. So I'll show you again. That was a lucky one. I managed to catch it. Not always the way. Now, if you are too close to the wall, I'm getting overexcited now. If you're close to the wall, what's going to happen is your bum is likely to hit the wall. As you're shifting your hips over your shoulders, your bum's going to hit the wall and stop you from getting that. So the further away you are, and then as you build your confidence, you can move yourself away from the wall. You give yourself a bit of space to hopefully catch your balance. Now, one thing that you will notice is that when you're practicing with the wall, and the same for headstand, for handstand, is your feet will start to reach for the wall. And rather than thinking up, you're actually trying to get to the wall. And we want to try and avoid that. So when we're coming into this, we're really thinking of lifting up. But we know that we've got the wall there just to keep us nice and safe. So let's give it another go. Again, maybe just taking a little hop. maybe you find the wall. Now, if you find the wall and the back is bananaing, what can you do to try and draw it in? So you want to bring the front of the ribs towards one another. Or take a back bend like I did. So you can see that knowing the wall there is amazing for confidence, but it can mean that we have a tendency to reach back and arch. So strengthening the core is a really, really important part of this practice. Not only does it help us to keep lifting up when we're in the pose, but it also means that we have the strength to lift the hips away from the heels. Just started the most amazing rain outside. I don't know if you can hear that. Amazing. So there we go. There's a few tips. What I really wanted to offer you today was the chance to play. And I think sometimes things feel so far away, then it can interfere with our confidence to just be playful, to let go of the attachment to where it is that we're going. There's so much going on in the pose, and there's so much going on in our bodies. And it doesn't matter whether or not we ever get to a certain pose, but if you've got an itch that you want to scratch, then have a play. Be safe. Keep yourself safe when you're practicing. Don't do anything that could be injurious. And if that feels quite scary, then take your time to build in. Build that strength in the shoulders, in the core, that space in the hamstrings that allows you to walk your hips in, walk your feet in and your hips over your shoulders. Let's have one more go if you're with me. Hands come down onto the floor. We tuck the toes, lift the hips. Walk your feet in as far as you can. Keep pushing down through the forearms. Lift a leg and take a little hop. Couple of little hops. Pushing the ground away with the forearms. Extending the legs up. You're using the wall for balance. And try to breathe. I hope you enjoyed playing. Keep yourself safe, keep practicing, and I'll see you very soon. If you enjoyed that tutorial, I've got lots more and loads of on-demand classes on my studio, The Practice. I've popped the link below for a 7-day free trial, and I hope to see you very soon.